I'm continuing the trend of machines for this March, but not to bring you a mechanized menace. Instead, it's a full build Friday, and we're going to use the opportunity to explore a techno champion. Akin to the Monster Monday earlier this week, we're tapping into Transformers animated to feature the cyber ninja, Prowl. I do appreciate those of you that take the time to drop a like and subscribe to the channel, but I won't take up too much of your time with that. Instead, let's get into the build goals. Transformers Animated provided us with a very unique take on Prowl. Keeping with tradition, he is a cybernetic lifeform, though one that transforms into a police motorcycle. On Cybertron, he was brought under the care of Yokotron, who trained him in martial arts and processor over matter techniques. Following his master's death, Prowl's attempt at seclusion was ruined by Optimus Prime's team, and he was drawn into the Autobot-Decepticon conflict. In addition to his skills as a martial artist, Prowl capably wields shurikens, launching them in flurries at foes or even wielding them in melee. He possesses the ability to create holograms of himself, allowing him to misdirect and manipulate his foes. He furthermore possesses a jetpack that grants him very limited flight. And while he struggled to learn it initially, he eventually mastered processor over matter techniques, effectively granting him telekinesis. Bringing it all together, Prowl is a transforming stealthy cyber ninja who wields shurikens, creates illusory duplicates of himself, and even possesses limited telekinesis. Naturally, our cybernetic spy will be using the Automaton ancestry, though the heritage is a point of contention for me. I would have loved to use the reflection heritage, and the mirror-risen feat that comes with it, since it would let him create a duplicate of himself. But that is all from that heritage that really suits him. Given the lack of support beyond that, I would instead take the Hunter heritage for the Automaton, letting Prowl take an action to transform into a faster mode. I still struggle to find some feats at first level, but Automaton lore might suit his training at the hands of Yokotron, and the mysticism associated with it. It provides him with training in Arcana and crafting, as well as additional lore for the Automaton lore skill. Finally, he'll take an initial boost to strength, and then a free boost to dexterity. For similar reasons behind taking Automaton lore, he uses the Perfection Seeker background. This makes him train in acrobatics and warfare lore, and also affords him the Catfall skill feat, ensuring that he can safely land whenever his jetpack falters. We'll take his first boost here to dexterity, and the following free boost to wisdom. That brings us to his class, and we're going to stick with the theme of his ninja training and go for the Rogue. While I hesitate to harangue this hero as a thief, Prowl will be using that racket, which will allow him to apply his dexterity to his finesse attacks and also makes him trained in thievery. This leads to him taking dexterity as his class ability score, while the class at large grants him surprise attack to get the jump on adversaries, and sneak attack so that he can hit them where it hurts. As somebody who fights the significantly larger Decepticons, Prowl makes use of the Tumble Behind class feat, letting him roll through enemy spaces and leave them off guard. As a rogue, he receives a skill feat, and based on his jetpack, he'll take Quick Jump, letting him swiftly ascend or otherwise maneuver about the ever-shifting battlefield made by the Decepticons. As a thief racket rogue, Prowl is trained in stealth and thievery, and further becomes trained in athletics, deception, diplomacy, nature, occultism, religion, and survival. His ability boosts go to strength, dexterity, wisdom, and charisma. He needs that strength for an archetype that he has his eyes on, and charisma for an archetype after that, but dexterity will remain central to processing this unit. Outside of his shurikens, Prowl is a skilled martial artist, and monk dedication at 2nd level will be a step towards realizing both of those aspects. This provides him with the powerful fist class feature, getting it up to a d6 damage die, and also makes him trained in medicine. As a rogue, Prowl increases his deception to expert and takes the lengthy diversion skill feat. Until we can properly replicate his illusory duplicates, we can flavor his attempts to create a diversion as creating his holograms. This patient perfidious Prowler picks up Deny Advantage at 3rd level, making him quick on the take, and then increases his acrobatics to expert. On top of his hastening hunter heritage, he has Fleet as his general feat, and then makes use of Confabulator to make his created diversions more effective and let him pull such tricks repeatedly. For another facet of our featured figure at 4th level, he takes Basic Kata for monastic weaponry. This has its purposes it will become later, but isn't terribly useful right now. On the skill side of things, Prowl increases his stealth to expert, and sticks with created diversion type feats through Fleeing Diversion, letting him use his reaction to sneak away after nailing attempts to create a diversion. So, if he leaves behind a double, he can get out of the way of any indirect fire. 5th level kicks off with ability boost to Strength, Dexterity, Wisdom, and Charisma, just as we saw at 1st level. Weapon Tricks makes him an expert with his weapons, and gives him crit effects against off-guard creatures. He'll take a skill increase to Athletics, which means he'll be able to use Powerful Leap to represent his jetpack a bit, and then he looks for Ancestry feats. I settled on Magical Resistance, just so that he can gain some resistance to cold damage. I'm honestly none too keen on these feats here, but this one is at least based on the natural resilience that the Transformers have to the cold. There's a couple of things at 6th level. First off, Prowl gains an Advanced Kata, which he'll use to take Chi spells, which in turn he'll use to take Chi Rush. This lets him race into battle, though Prowl knows when to stop and smell the roses, which is why he takes a skill increase to Nature. Rolling Landing lets us get a bit more speed out of our boy's engine as a skill feat, allowing him to speed away even from the most terrible of tumbles. Our Reclusive Robotic Rogue rakes in a range of class features at 7th level, with the likes of Evasive Reflexes, Perception Mastery, and Weapon Specialization. His skill increase goes to Deception, so that he might master it. For his general feat, Incredible Initiative meshes nicely with his Surprise Attack class feature, before he takes Rapid Mantle as his skill feat. The main benefit of this feat is that it will allow him to haul himself back onto an edge after he manages to grab it, saving him time on having to do so later down the line. With 2 feats from his Monk archetype under his belt, Prowl can now take up a Sorcerer Dedication at 8th level, which is how we'll be exploring with his hologram powers, as well as his Processor over Matter techniques. You'll want a bloodline that has access to the Arcane or Occult spell list for the ones that we'll be looking for. I settled on the Hag bloodline, and took skill increases to Intimidation and Society. This feat also nets him 2 cantrips. Telekinetic Hand is the most obvious for his Processor over Matter powers, and Warp Step helps to reflect his Alacritus alt mode. From his skill feat, he'll gain Kip Up. As I've said before, it is just one of the best skill feats in the game, right up there with Scared to Death, with how it saves on action economy. As we tap into 9th level, Prowl gains Rogue Resilience, but perhaps more importantly, acquires the Rogue's Debilitating Strike. This isn't necessarily important for Prowl, but it's certainly a handy feature. He takes his skill increase to Stealth, and through this Master Proficiency, he'll pick up Swift Sneak. This will let him get more use out of Fleeting Diversion, but this level also includes Arcane Propulsion. This gives Prowl limited flight, which is a great way to represent his jetpack, as it's not enough to give him full flight. That is something that Autobots from his series distinctly lack. For our Techno Titan's 10th level, he takes ability boost to Dexterity, Constitution, Wisdom, and Charisma. Taking basic Sorcerer spellcasting immediately nets him all 3 ranks of spells, which he'll use for his hologram powers. It starts with Illusory Object at 1st rank, continues with the fantastically fitted Mirror Image at 2nd rank, which required us to dip into a bit of the pre-master stuff, and rounds out with Illusory Creature. The main benefit of this last spell is that he can use it to flank with himself, and maybe get enemies to waste actions on it. When it comes to his skills, Prowl increases his athletics. Becoming a master in it lets him take wall jump to represent his nimble and agile maneuvers, allowing him to bound between points to reach those high-flying Decepticons that tend to take to the air. 11th level sees him acquire Rogue Expertise, and also makes him an expert in Occultism. With how light Prowl is on his feet, Featherstep is a solid fit into this build. Intimidating Glare is a little shakier when it comes to fitting in, but Prowl is a severe cybernetic sort, pinning the likes of Bumblebee in place with plenty of these glares and glowers. A common phrase uttered by Prowl is,
"Stillness, then strike."
And I think Rogue actually gives us a way to represent this with Analyze Weakness at 12th level, allowing him to take the time to study his target and know best where to strike. He becomes a master of occultism based on his esoteric studies, and uses that to take Common Centered as his skill feat. His training in meditation allows him to reduce the effects of the frightened or stupefied conditions, clearing his mind of distractions. Lucky level 13 comes with greater rogue reflexes, light armor expertise, master tricks for his weapons, and perception legend. A copious cornucopia of class features that is finished off with a skill increase to thievery, making him an expert of it. Prowl then uses some of his hologram abilities for arcane camouflage as his ancestry feat, letting him fully disappear from sight. Now, while Prowl isn't much of a team player, he does learn to play nice as his character art in the series, which is why he takes Comforting Presence for his skill feat, letting him spread an effect similar to his Common Center to his allies as well. At 14th level, we finally tap into Monk's Flurry for Prowl's class feat, securing Swift Strikes for our Cybernetic Sleuth. He uses another skill increase on Thievery, and then makes use of Disturbing Knowledge, giving him a way to inflict some debuffs on foes before firing a flurry of fearsome fists. We will kick off 15th level with ability boost to Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, and Charisma. That boost to Intelligence means that he'll become trained in Performance, the only skill that he is not already trained in. He becomes a Legend of Deception with his actual skill increase, and then receives the Double Debilitation and Greater Weapon Specialization class features. Based on the stillness that Prowl values, he uses Thorough Search as his general feat, while taking Tumbling Theft as his skill feat. This can work in conjunction with his Tumble Behind, letting him steal shards of the Allspark from the evil forces of the Decepticons. An advanced COD at 16th level finally allows Prowl to take the Shooting Stars stance. I wanted to wait until he at least had Monk's Flurry to take this, because he doesn't get much out of it otherwise, but this will finally let him swiftly sling his shurikens. A skill increase makes him a Legend in Stealth, which allows him in turn to take Legendary Sneak, just making the most out of his ability to disappear from plain sight. Between this and his holograms, he's snatching powers from 2 of the original Autobots. Prowl gains an Agile Mind at 17th level, and also becomes a Legend in Thievery. He's going to use Greater Augmentation to upgrade his Arcane Camouflage, which will let him extend the duration of his Blur and allow him to cast a 4th rank Invisibility. He takes Dirty Trick as his skill feat, letting him throw foes off their game before he makes use of his agile attacks, whether they be Shuriken or Fists. One of the reasons that I settled on the Rogue class was because it offered Perfect Distraction. This has the effects of Mislead, allowing him to create an illusory duplicate while disappearing, and it has the added benefit of not being limited by spell slots. It just takes him another 10 minutes to set it up to use again. For skills, he becomes a Legend in Acrobatics and then takes Foil Senses, accounting for the range of scanners and unusual senses that Cybertronians often find themselves able to call upon, and creating countermeasures for them. With his final round of class features, Prowl gains Light Armor Mastery and Master Strike at 19th level, as well as a skill increase that makes him a Legend in Athletics. Given his own advanced sensors and scanners, Prowl takes True Perception as his general feat, and then leans into the mysticism of his teachings with Consult the Spirits. Though I might lean into the fondness that he feels for organic life upon Earth when it comes to reflavoring the use of his skill feat. We're closing out on this build with ability boosts to Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, and Intelligence. Through that increase to Intelligence, he'll become trained in martial arts lore, or honestly whatever lore you want, since he has every other skill. And then he becomes a master in nature. He can build on Perfect Distraction with Reactive Distraction as his 20th level class feat, letting him create a duplicate to take the effects of an attack in his place. To round it out, I like Cloud Jump as his final skill feat, just to call to mind the flight-like jumps afforded to him by his jet boosters. When it comes to actually playing Prowl, he has some design as a self-sufficient rogue. Between Tumble Behind or Illusory Creature, he can make enemies off guard all on his own. I think that it's worth pointing out that Tumble Behind will make enemies off guard to his ranged attacks, so he could tumble through an enemy, race past them, and then launch some shuriken to trigger sneak attack at a distance. When he's got an enemy dead to rights is when he'll want to use Analyze Weakness, but it's also a good one to use in place of making a third strike, even with his agile weapons. Finally, he'll likely want to use Mirror Image before going into the fight, but can also use Illusory Creature and maybe even Illusory Object to distract foes and steal away their actions. If you're looking at taking this motorbike mecha into a free archetype game, a huge boon is bringing Shooting Star Stance and the like online way sooner. He could also get monk moves and possibly Inner Upheaval to add some extra punch to his kit. Obviously, he'll simply seek to expand his spells with a Sorcerer archetype, gaining Expert and Master Sorcerer spell casting, though he might need to pump his Occultism a bit more to do so. If you go this route, in addition to more illusion spells, I'd consider some deeper exploration into his Processor over Matter abilities, with spells like Telekinetic Maneuvers. Our drive down the details of this design is about done, but did we really capture the feel of the Cyber Ninja, or is it but a cheap imitation? Let's review and find out. Prowl is a Hunter Automaton Thief Rogue with the Perfection Seeker background. That Automaton ancestry of his reflects his own nature as a Cybertronian, while the Hunter heritage allows him to transform into a faster alternate mode, hastened by additional options such as Chi Rush and Warp Step. His training as a Cyber Ninja and its semi-mystical arts is reflected in his background, as well as the Monk Dedication and Telekinetic Hand spell. Further demonstrating his skills as a martial artist, he uses the Shooting Star stance and Monk's Flurry to unleash a barrage of these weapons. He initially relies on deception to capture the idea of him creating holograms, before he properly explores it with the likes of Mirror Image, Illusory Creature, and Perfect Distraction. For his jetpack, we'll start with the likes of Powerful Leap, until he can build into Arcane Propulsion, giving him a limited but true form of flight. Superbly swift and subtle, this solitary cyber spy slices through saboteurs, suddenly ceasing to size up suspects, and then succinctly striking, supporting a sudden cessation to their struggles. We've got a remaster build coming in next week, but let me know what you think of this one, and what other builds you'd like to see down in a comment. If you like what you've seen here and want more, check out the Monster Monday blog, which is linked below along with the Twitter and Discord. Thanks for watching, and have a fantastic Friday.
Hey, Prowl! You're all into that balance and agility garbage? You want in on this action?